Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter, Kyle Dvorchak. It's week 2 of free agency, and you better believe the multi-year deals are still flowing like... No one got a multi-year deal. The entire free agency period. We're here to talk about one-year contracts for players like Dalton, Schultz, Devin Singletary. How many years is the Damien Harris contract?
Just one, I think.
Few years.
For 8 games.
Mecole Hardman signed. We're going to talk about the Mike Gesicki. I know people are dying. Actually, people are probably dying here.
I'm dying.
Free agency is so bad that the NFL is like introducing the NBA 10-day contracts when you're down to like 6 dudes on your roster. So you have to like swing a G League player up. And they're like, you're on here for our Thursday night game, the next Sunday game, and you're out the door by Monday.
We're going to talk about all that. But first, Denny Larry King Carter was on a bit of a rant before the podcast started. He recently saw a feature film starring Adam Driver. I believe he's been nominated for several Academy Awards, Denny, where you said he, quote, shoots dinosaurs, and you didn't think it was that good. You didn't think it was very good. Why don't you tell the people about 65, as it's being called by the Zoomers?
65. And yes, the Zoomers are calling it 65. It's called 65, even though the events happened 66 million years ago. But I guess maybe that didn't test as well with the 11-year-olds that they were trying to appeal to here.
No, this doesn't look good. I'm looking at just the posters. This film does not look great.
I saw it because look, my son's 10. He likes lasers. He likes things blowing up. He likes dinosaurs. He likes sci-fi. Okay, we're big into sci-fi together. I enjoy that he enjoys that. Okay, and there's a lot of good sci-fi out there, and I fear that seeing modern sci-fi will turn him off to the genre because it's all terrible. It's all this movie had. When I tell you it had no story, I'm telling you, I mean that it had no story. Nothing developed. You felt nothing for the characters. Okay, they were just cardboard cutouts running around prehistoric Earth, shooting dinosaurs for no reason. Trying to look. I'm gonna ruin the movie here. Okay, please. So cover your ears or skip ahead or whatever, because I know if you're dying to see 65, this is going to ruin it. They're they crash on Earth, guys. Okay, from another planet.
So it's kind of the Planet of the Apes thing.
They crash on Earth, and folks, there's a meteor coming that's going to wipe out the dinosaurs. And
so it's based on a true story, actually.
We got to get off this planet before that meteor hits. So they do. And that's the story. And it's him and saving a little girl. It's actually just like the worst movie I've ever seen by far. It's not even close.
First off, you say what was Chilexilub's name? You say its name next time. I can't. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. I can't pronounce it though. What were you saying, Kyle?
Rotopat, what's the last time you've seen a movie in theaters? Because you have kids, so I assume you're actually doing this. I haven't gone in years, man.
Well, it was right before the podcast I revealed the most recent film I saw in theaters, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, about cartoon cats who. It
was definitely better than 65.
There's like a wish or something, like someone wants to make it. They're running around like a bunch of cats.
Look, I get that a guy like Adam Driver, who I've seen movies with him where he is quite good.
Yeah, he wanted to let off some steam making 65.
And I get it. Like occasionally you have to cash in that ticket to get the easy money, so you could go make the good movies that don't make as much money because no one wants to see good movies. People just want to see bad movies. So, like 65. So I get cashing in. He's not the first to do it. Okay, many respectable actors have made terrible action movies in order to get some money. But you got to choose a little more wisely. Like you have to be a little more selective than, I don't know, the worst movie to ever be made by humans. That would be my advice.
You're saying basically the film is Turok the Dinosaur Hunter cutscenes from the N64, not a new version of this game.
It kind of sounds like it, actually. Yeah.
Denny has no idea what Turok the Dinosaur Hunter is, and of course Kyle doesn't either.
No, I've heard of it. I've never played it, but I heard of it.
Well, you drive around shooting dinosaurs for no reason. It's kind of the whole point of the game.
Lots of dinosaur shooting. Also, there were dinosaurs that didn't exist, apparently. My son looked it up, said that it was fraudulent in its history. So it got its history all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and Chiexulub is now, of course, suing the producers of the film for portraying it in such a negative light. And, it was a natural process. It doesn't think it did anything wrong. It's not a villain. An asteroid has to hit something.
It does.
And it hit Earth. And why portray that in such a negative light?
You can't cancel the asteroid.
Yeah, don't cancel.
By the way, I just realized I said meteor. That was dumb. It was an asteroid.
Yes, that's an asteroid that wiped out those dinos. And,
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, it should be. And by the way, I wanted to see the
no Rotopack. Go ahead, transition. See, work this transition.
Right.
I wanted to see Blue People too in theater, Avatar, where they go take swimming lessons or whatever, but no one would see it with me because it's 4.5 hours long.
Yeah. How long is it?
It's 5 hours and 22 minutes.
I gotta hand it to the makers of 65. That thing was 90 minutes on the dot. I appreciate the hell out of that. Thank you.
That's a throwback to action movies of your time.
Yeah. Thank you for not making me sit through 2.5 hours of that. I actually would be, in agony. At that point.
But yeah, there's an ongoing debate and crisis in Hollywood about people don't want to quote see movies made for adults. And yeah, we need to probably work on that. So we need some better podcast topics. And boy, did the New York Jets deliver by finally trading disgruntled, now third-year pro, Elijah Moore, who popped as a rookie. The entire dynasty fantasy community and just the redraft fantasy community thought the number 34 overall pick of the 2021 draft was essentially the number 1 overall pick of the 2021 draft. He had a decent rookie year, far less decent 2022. He was big mad, I believe is the scientific phrase, all year. Wanted a trade, has now received a trade to the Cleveland Browns. Reviews are now quite mixed on this deal. I've seen people say both teams got ripped off. The fantasy community is much more divided now on Elijah Moore. Denny Carter, what are our initial thoughts on Elijah Moore becoming a Cleveland Brown?
I kind of like it, and I may be on an island here, but
you will be canceled by the asteroid.
Well, and just let me have my free speech just for a moment before I'm canceled. He had a not so bad rookie year in a terrible Jets offense. Okay, I think you have to look at Elijah Moore or any Jets pass catcher in the context of they had a bottom three. Yes, just to put it simply, being a Jet. But you had a bottom 3 quarterback in Zach Wilson. I'm being generous by saying bottom 3.
Come on, tell us how you really feel about Zach Wilson. I don't think that's a praise coming from you for Zach Wilson.
I'm trying. The thing is, I spent all week saying Baker Mayfield is the worst quarterback in the NFL, so I can't say that Wilson is. But as a rookie in 2021, Elijah Moore was 14th in targets per route run among receivers who ran at least 200 routes. His yards per route run was not great. It was outside the top 30. It was second on his own team behind Corey Davis, but we're not going to talk about that point. Like all Jets pass catchers over the past 2 seasons, Elijah Moore excelled when Zach Wilson was not under center. That particularly the last 5 games of his rookie season before an injury put him out for the rest of the year. So I think you kind of have to squint, but Elijah Moore might be good, and he's entering a Cleveland offense that is reportedly going to open it up a little bit and not be the hyper conservative sort of backward offense that they were last year, more 4 wide receiver sets and everything. So if he gets an every down role running routes in that offense, you could do worse.
Kyle, now explain to us why they actually are doing worse and why Elijah Moore not commanding targets as a sophomore was quite concerning.
Yeah, usually to be productive as a receiver, you need to get targets, which is a thing, as you pointed out, he didn't do per ESPN Stats and Info. He was dead last among receivers in his second year in targets per route run. I mean, he was terrible by pretty much any metric. PFF had him 97th in yards per route run, only 102 receivers qualified. He's among the worst receivers in the league. His target share in general dropped by 6% to just shy of 13% in his second season. All terrible metrics. Just no positive spin to put on his second year. It was awful. But as Denny pointed out, he really did show promise in his first season And I thought he was a really strong prospect. I mean, just looking at his final college season, he averaged 157 yards from scrimmage. 157. That is so many yards. That's a football field, a half of a football field, and then 7 more 100ths of that football field.
Thank you for that.
So many. So he was a really strong, intriguing college prospect. He looked really good his rookie year, or at least promising his rookie year. Like Denny said, he showed an ability to earn targets. He pushed for almost 20% target shares, just under 19 as a rookie. That's promising. And sure, he wasn't drastically efficient. You expect that from the Jets. He was like neck and neck with Corey Davis in yards per out run. It wasn't like Corey Davis was lapping him by any means. So I thought that was all really pointing up. And then last year it all came crashing down. Now he gets a change of scenery. He was going to get a better quarterback either way, but he will from 2022 to 2023 have a better quarterback, an offensive coordinator that maybe wants to play him. That looks like that should be good. You generally want that to score fantasy points. I think last year was bad, and typically bad seasons, they predict future bad seasons. But so much was going on. There are so many confounding factors that I want to buy into the hope a little bit. I think I'm coming around to just how solid in bad circumstances his rookie year was, that we're not forgiving the second year, but we're just taking it all in context. I'm kind of excited to see what he can do.
I mean, Elijah Moore had such high dog levels coming into the NFL that made his former college teammate, A.J. Brown, cry. I don't know if you guys saw that video after Elijah Moore was drafted. A.J. Brown is so proud of him, such a big believer in him. If A.J. Brown thinks you're good, probably a pretty good sign. And as Kyle said, really, there was just so much going on in 2022. And, there's a growing understanding that target commanding is a skill, which of course makes sense. If you're good, they're going to throw the ball to you. It's faulty to take the view oh man, now he's got a better quarterback, a better offense, he's going to get more targets. But also you just can't divorce that from the fact that he was essentially not trying last year. It's not and they just benched him, and it was just a totally crazy situation, and where we can't just be defined by the 13% target share from 2022. There were genuine extenuating circumstances, still genuine reason to be concerned. But that basically it is too early to say he's on a bust trajectory, and that 2023 is going to tell the tale.
It was a dysfunctional situation between him and the team last year. You remember when I believe he was thrown out of practice or told not to come to practice when he demanded a trade after week 4. Robert Saleh kept saying, everything's fine. There's nothing to see here. But he kept, he was deactivated. He was in street clothes. He wasn't even with the team for a while. So
I've got a good one. Asked about, this is from Rotoworld. Asked about his chemistry with Zach Wilson. Elijah Moore said, "I don't know. I don't get the ball." I forgot just how this was toxic. This is a bad workplace environment he was in last year.
Well, the frustration with the Jets was obvious, and I think for good reason, because beyond quarterback, they had a really good team. There's no reason the Jets should have missed the playoffs last year. They were a playoff team if they even got passable quarterback play, and instead they got league worst quarterback play. And so these receivers, look, you put Garrett Wilson in the situation for long enough, everybody's going to sour on him too, because he cannot stand out. He cannot excel in that environment. Yeah.
Speaking of just the Jets being a quarterback away, we've all basically shared that belief, and pretty much everyone shared that belief. I'm working on my annual coach rankings right now, and doing a deep dive on the Jets 2022 season is they really were just a quarterback away. And also the Robert Saleh, who really did not impress as a rookie head coach, allowed the most points in the NFL, ascended to allowing the 4th fewest points in the NFL last year, where the Jets are on an upward trajectory, and they just need that old quarterback. And still think it might be Aaron Rodgers. As we wait for Aaron Rodgers, they have signed Mecole Hardman as part of their, it's hard to call it their Elijah Moore replacement plan, but as they're getting ready for Aaron Rodgers' plan, 1 year, $6.5 million deal for Mecole Hardman, who was recovering from a pelvis injury that just would not heal last year for the Chiefs. Would not, they kept saying he was going to come back every week for 9 weeks in a row. And then every Friday, never mind. Pelvis is still really hurting him. And I don't even really know what that entails, your pelvis hurting. But it hurt quite badly for Mecole Hardman. He's now a New York Jet. The guy had an entire rookie contract, Patrick Mahomes, Can we really say our expectations go up at all going to the Jets with Aaron Rodgers? Is anything to cling to with Mecole Hardman, or just what we saw in Kansas City is what we are going to continue to get in New York?
I just think he's a gadget. He's probably just a gadget guy, and I want him to be more. Like I think he is an exciting player. He's probably the fastest guy on the field at any given moment. But none of the peripheral numbers show a guy who's improved or been utilized in ways that show growth as a receiver.
Just wait till he plays with a good quarterback, Denny.
Yeah, right. That's all. That's all he needs. Just like Juju. Just wait one. If Juju gets 1 year with a good quarterback, just watch. Yeah, and I think in a Rodgers offense, if he ends up in New York, I guess he could be used as an East-West sort of trick play, gadget play guy. But I don't think that he's fantasy relevant. Let's just say that unless the Jets have horrific receiver injury luck.
What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like, oh, you had 4 seasons with Andy Reid as your head coach, with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, and you couldn't break out. Like the final year, you didn't have your team had no number 1 receiver. Like I get he was injured, but he wasn't any more efficient. It was like his worst year by yards per route run. His yards per route run slowly trickled down every single year since his rookie season. Like he's kind of proven to us who he is. I think there's a chance for a breakout that a coach sees and uses him differently. But he was like a gadget player coming into the NFL, a gadget player through 4 years. They haven't you'd think, oh, well, at least he's a burner. He can get downfield and get behind you. He doesn't actually get used deep downfield either. So he's got like a mismatch of, or at least an underutilization of his skills. And it's probably not an underutilization. It's coaches realizing his limitations, not physically, but as a player, as a skill set. So yeah, I mean, I think he'll probably pop up for some big games here and there, but like the distance between here and there, as I just said, is going to be weeks, many of them, months possibly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only real hope would be, so he came from one of the best, if not the best coaching staffs in the entire NFL. But even with that being the case, sometimes it just takes a different coach seeing you and figuring out. So even Andy Reid could have been wrong about Mecole Hardman, was what I was trying to say. Sure. But it's Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, like, this is really Nathaniel Hackett. But it's Nathaniel. It's not going to unlock Mecole Hardman.
Nathaniel Hackett has promised never to unlock anyone.
It's true. It's true. He's trying. I'm locked out of the house yet again. He's right in there. And
just unlock it.
Wouldn't you know it? Honey, I've told you, remember, you put the spare key right there on the window ledge, visible to everyone. So why don't you just use that to get in? Oh, thank you, honey. This is not a very funny Nathaniel Hackett riff here, but the riff being, never mind.
You know what? Nothing with Nathaniel Hackett is funny, nor will it be funny this year when the Jets' offense is bad.
No, man, by the way, are we to the point where as nihilists we want the Rodgers thing to fall through?
Oh, that'd be really fun. That'd be interesting.
Not at all. A huge portion of our audience is Jets fans, but we're all Midwestern nihilists. Denny, an Eastern Seaboard nihilist. I mean,
I love chaos.
We can't do this to the Jets fans, can we?
No, we can. We can do that to the Jets fans. There are other good teams in New York. Choose one of those teams. Yankees. Be a Yankees fan or whatever. I don't know.
Even though I mean, they have no plan B. Their plan B is Zach Wilson. That's no plan.
Real quick, let's do a debate. Who in the Aaron Rodgers situation actually has the leverage? Because this has been an ongoing debate on Twitter. Like who has to blink first? Like, is it the Packers or the Jets? I honestly think the Jets have the leverage because the Packers cannot have this guy around. They just cannot have this guy around. And I feel like the Jets can basically smoke the Packers out. Some people, very smart people, have the opposite view. Who do you guys think actually has the leverage in the Jets Aaron Rodgers situation?
I think the public. Probably
Aaron.
Power to the people.
It's probably the Jets because of the Packers having to figure out a way to trade this contract. I mean, this like Titanic contract. And I mean that's the hang up is like, how do we get rid of this thing and not pay dearly? I still, I know it's hindsight and everything, but even at the time when he signed that, wasn't it last offseason?
It was last offseason, yes.
Why did they do that? That was the time.
He had won back-to-back MVPs.
That was the time to cut bait, to say, all right, like, we don't like you, you don't like us, you're toxic, you're clear, you're 100 years old. We have Jordan Love. Move on. They should have moved on. That should have been an easy call.
It is. I agree. It's just a weird debate because the Jets need him so bad. The Packers have.
Yeah,
to
I think that's where it kind of comes down to me. Is like you said, they missed the playoffs last year. The team was horrible the year before that. Joe Douglas is still looking for his first winning season. He hasn't been that close. His best season 7-9 in his first year as the general manager. Like, house is getting cleaned. If this falls through and they're forced to go with Zach Wilson, or like, I literally cannot think of another option. Even the
no one's available. Like, even Gardner Minshew has been signed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Andy Dalton got signed. Like Minshew got signed. Obviously,
Mike White.
Like the high end. Yeah, Mike White. They can't bring Mike White back. Exactly. No? Like they would be. What would they do?
Straveler season, baby.
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Run option.
Straveler season, baby.
Yes.
Imagine you got Nathaniel Hackett with Russ, and that was a dumpster. Like, imagine him with Straveler. They like House probably gets cleaned if this falls through because they don't have another option. They're maybe hoping like Will Levis falls to them. They can try and go with like Hendon Hooker in the second, or like the trade market for just trade back for Mike White, like bring him back in. They get, I mean, it's over for them. I guess the Jets
are Rodgers. He is already on the Packers books. I mean, they desperately want this guy out of there, but I guess, he's already on the books. It's like, I guess they're
not going to be uncapped compliant. They're not going to be out of like not compliant with the cap. If they hold on to him, like they'll work around that. It would just be more like, do you actually tell him like, take the year off if we're playing Jordan Love? Because clearly that's what they would like almost
want. That would be their
do.
only other option, is trade him or keep him on the roster, but tell him.
I think it's also very possible that if they keep him, he just retires, which helps the problem a bit.
He won't retire. He wants the check. He's not going to retire. So it'd be like the Deshaun Watson situation.
It'd be hilarious.
Where he's on the roster and they just tell him to go home.
That would be an amazing scenario where you say, hey, legendary quarterback, come back home, and you are deactivated for the whole season. Don't even show up at the game.
So fun. I just look like it'd be hilarious. Just I get it. It comes at the expense of both, definitely at the expense of both Packers fans and Jets fans. But like I do love when we get like true soap opera drama, and the NFL doesn't give us a ton of that, right? That's more of a basketball thing. So I love when we get it.
We do like chaos. We love our chaos, and we're sorry to the Jets fans listening, who there are many, many Jets fans listening. It's a enormous football market. They comprise a shockingly high percentage of our readership. We're sorry, Jets fans, for rooting for chaos. Speaking of Jets fans, they've had to worry about those Buffalo Bills a lot the past few years. Can't beat them, can't pass them in the division. The Bills, who I can't ever figure out what they want to do at running back, have let Devin Singletary walk. They have brought in former division foe Damien Harris, a 1-year, barely $1 million deal. Everyone thought the Bills have been so desperately pursuing a pass catching back for so long. I guess they think they finally have that in James Cook.
Right.
Not ready to give the early downs to James Cook. So they bring in the hammer, Damien Harris. Can he be more valuable than Devin Singletary was, who the Bills never, ever wanted to be the hammer or the third down guy, but they could never find anyone better than him. So they just kept playing him. Do we think Damien Harris, the starter there, can be more fantasy valuable in Buffalo than Devin Singletary was? Denny Carter.
No. I mean, the Bills, they don't run the ball. Like they, even when they have game script on their side, you have Josh Allen, rushing the ball, especially, inside the 20, inside the 10. Unless they're trying to get away from that, which I don't know why they would be doing that. Besides for health reasons, for longevity reasons for Allen, but it's so effective. He's so effective in that area. I can't imagine they're saying, well, we're going to bring Damien Harris in to run up the middle on first and goal from the 6. I can't really see that from a pretty smart team in the Bills. I do think, obviously, any thought that James Cook was going to be a guy who's saying 15 touches, not carries, but 15 touches a game, that's out the window completely. But that was always very unlikely. They were going to draft somebody. They were going to sign somebody who would take on that early down role. Damien Harris has touchdown some touchdown based appeal in this Buffalo offense, but besides that, I just don't see anything.
I can maybe see him being at one notch above Devin Singletary, who could just never ever get that goal line role. And at least Damien Harris has like experience and is like branded as a goal line back, which is silly, but like coaches seem to really, really pay attention to that stuff. And if one coaching staff typecasts you, it's amazing how many like further coaching staffs are willing to say, yeah, they were right. He's the only thing he can do is score touchdowns. So we got to give him the tutters. I don't say that word. They say that word. Okay? Don't leave an angry review about saying tutters or tutties.
We're going to get angry reviews.
This is how they talk. But yeah, I could see maybe, because you said only for health reasons for Josh Allen, that could arrive in 2023 after the elbow basically almost fully derailed his and their season. Maybe this will be the year they're like, yeah, we probably don't need Josh Allen to be Superman in the red zone every drive. And maybe Damien Harris could get that, because Devin Singletary was not rugged enough. I mean, Kyle, you want to break this tie between Denny and I? What do you think?
I lean on your side, especially because you said maybe he could be a little better, right? You weren't going off the deep end with it. And I think he's probably a better pure between the tackles type of runner than Devin Singletary. He earned top 5 PFF rushing grades in 2 of the past 3 years. Last year, he was still top 30. He was banged up and didn't get as much work. And he had a okay season last year. He was 23rd in rush yards over expected per attempt. That was also better than Devin Singletary. And really, like, I think the thing that helped Devin Singletary's fantasy output was that he has at least 38 catches in each of the past 3 years, but he's consistently one of the worst running backs in yards per route run. So I don't think that was
inefficient, Kyle. It's like he's like stunningly inefficient as a pass catcher.
Yet he still gets to nearly 40 catches every season. So that tells me that his receiving value really isn't something that he was going out and earning above replacement. That tells me that there are about 40 catches to go around to the running backs that were playing Singletary's role. He was just the guy in that role. Harris actually has a better yards per out run on his career. It's not great. It's really pretty replacement level, but replacement level will be an upgrade. And I think James Cook probably ultimately serves as more of the pass catching back to this team. He is built for that to a T, but maybe we see Harris get some of that. Maybe we see him get some more goal line work. And I think he's a better runner. So yeah, I think the fact that we got sort of, as you would call it, the scammy PPR value, and I'm not sure that Harris comes in and gets that could just go to James Cook. I guess I'd lean towards Cook having like fewer than 1,100 yards from scrimmage and 7 touchdowns, which is like the average for Devin Singletary over the past 2 years. But could he get more than that by being a better runner and surprising us by getting a similar receiving role and maybe getting more touchdowns? Because like, they definitely had to play differently with Josh Allen's elbow detaching last year. Like their pass rate over expected plummeted to like 2% over the second half of the year. They were not the same team. They want to avoid that essentially at all costs. Maybe that means giving some more goal line work to Damien Harris. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they still just do the thing with Josh Allen. I'd say maybe there's a little more upside because I just think he's a better player and maybe there's goal line work. But like you said, we're not like, he's fine. It's a fine signing. I think it's a good value signing for them. He's got really good value signing.
I don't know why like the Chargers or something didn't give him like $3 million. There's a lot of teams that could have used Damien Harris. Denny, I mean, so we know James Cook's going to be probably the preferred pass catching back. Do we think it's guaranteed that he scores more PPR points than Damien Harris though?
Yes.
You think so? What do you?
I think James Cook was very impressive.
I think it's going to be frustratingly close because I just think the Bills have done this thing like it happened with Duke Johnson. Like, James Cook, he's a pass catcher. Nothing we can do about it.
And
catch passes.
Obviously, kind of an absurd touchdown lucky season for Damien Harris would make this take look ridiculous because if he scores like 10 or 12 touchdowns, then
which he has,
he's going to score more points for sure than James Cook. But I'm looking as we're talking because just for the young folks out there trying to break into the industry, the best thing to do is to research during the podcast because you don't want to do it before. You want to do it in the heat of the moment. You try to listen with one ear and then focus with the other ear. What I'm seeing is that Devin Singletary and Damien Harris last year were basically the same sort of runner. So as far as yards after contact,
I do think Damien Harris to the eye test is a far superior runner to Devin Singletary. Although I do think maybe he got a little chewed up during his rookie contract.
Singletary, I don't know, man. Some of the metrics, some of the analytics say Singletary has been pretty, and you're a Singletary hater. You have to remember this.
Well, first off, I've been accused of being a Singletary lover for a while, where I kept 2 years in a row. He's just, no one ever wants to draft Devin Singletary, like ever. I've never once been in a fantasy draft like, I hit Singletary on my board, and like every year I'd be like, all right, it's like the 7th round. I'm like, he's the starting running back, like I have to take him. And then every year, like, yep, didn't have to take him.
No, I mean, I do. He's not like all inspiring, but
Damien's probably going to be a lot cheaper than we ever had to get with Devin Singletary too. And I think there's like a chance he goes out and plays a similar role that like James Cook. I still like, you can watch James Cook and be like, he's super electric. Also, like, he definitely just misread the blocks on this play, right? Like, I can see the holes right there, and he just went to bounce it outside and took a 2-yard loss. Like, he's definitely still a work in progress, even though the ceiling, I think, for him is really strong. But like, I could see Harris getting a meaningful split. I don't think it's a guarantee that James Cook outscores him. I think it's likely, but I think the market will price it that way at least. They might be pricing it closer to it's a guarantee. So I don't know.
That's how I feel too. I think people are going to be like over their skis, like James Cook, like you got to hit the draft button. Like
really?
I blocked the enter key on my keyboard.
Man, I think it's the opposite. I think people will say, you got to get Damien Harris, who's going to be scoring 15 touchdowns, and James Cook is going to be left for proverbial dead. By the way,
like no one in this industry is ever going to get excited about like the 5th year, like early down guy.
About Damien Harris, last year you had people out there going, you can't draft Ramondre. There's Damien Harris. He's there.
I don't remember what day Damien signed, but over the past week, so I think that gets most of him being signed. He is the running back 44 on underdog ADP. James Cook is 28, I believe.
Oh, well, that's not.
I honestly think it's gonna stick like that, man.
I kind of think so too.
Because people no one wants to be the early down drafter.
Well, I guess I'm taking Damien Harris then.
Never. Denny Carter.
By the way, I'm doing more research as we're talking, and I'm seeing more similarities, by the way, between Singletary and Harris had the same yards before contact per carry, after it's all the same. They're the same guy.
There's no difference between good and bad things. There's no difference between the first and second half of the show when we come back right after this and continue talking the second wave of NFL free agency. New MLB season, new rules, new stars. So pair it with the Rotoworld Baseball Draft Guide. Get all the player profiles, rankings, and projections you need to hit your draft out of the park. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/draft guide and use promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. That is promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. The season starts a week from today. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. Got to get in that old Rotoworld Baseball Draft Guide and find some first base options after Rhys Hoskins suffered a horrific knee injury on Thursday. I'm already down.
Dang, man, that sucks. I had him on all my teams.
I did literally have
him in the I was taking him in the 4th.
I was a little behind that. He was like Devin Singletary. No one wanted to draft him, and I kept needing a first baseman and kept drafting him. Now,
Denny, what teams does he play for? I actually think I know this one unless he changed teams.
He plays for the Brewers.
Phillies, right?
Yeah, Philadelphia Phillies. Now Derek Hall is going to get a shot, which you can read about in the Rotoworld Draft Guide. Matthew Poliat will be moving Derek Hall well up his rankings. We're still here talking about some football. I mean, I guess we should talk about Devin Singletary real quick, who is now on the Houston Texans for some reason. They needed to sign someone to pair with Dameon Pierce. And Singletary, I mean, we just talked about – we kind of debate if he's actually a good player. Denny seemed like he thinks he's a good player after researching him on the fly. He's been Singletary pilled finally after 4 years. But I'll let you get the first word on it, Denny. They needed some sort of veteran presence in their backfield. They still just have so much money to spend. They don't have good players on their roster. I guess it's a harmless signing, but is it going to like take the fun out of Dameon Pierce as an RB2? Just give us the lay of the land for Devin Singletary and the Texans.
I mean, I don't know if we can dismiss this as like a depth addition or someone who's just going to give Dameon Pierce a breather. Like First of all, the era of the workhorse running back obviously is over, except for very few exceptions. Damien Pierce is not going to be a workhorse, and if Devin Singletary is truly a bad pass catching back, which all numbers seem to point to him being quite bad as a pass catcher, then maybe Damien Pierce takes on that role in the Houston backfield. He saw 3 targets per game as a rookie in an offense that really wasn't throwing much until the last month of the season. So, and obviously there's going to be a lot of turnover. They have an analytics nerd at offensive coordinator now, Bobby, PFF Bobby. So maybe that changes things. But I
thought this was a bit the first time you guys talked about this.
Bobby Sloak was actually a PFF guy for, I don't know exactly what his role was, but he was something at PFF for a bit.
Yeah, he's one of us. We finally got in there, guys.
Just like we did with Mike McCarthy that time he spent like 3 days at PFF headquarters before going to Dallas.
He was one of the 40 people to borrow my sub. Hopefully PFF is not listening.
My favorite story, we're gonna get Singletary in a second, but my favorite story of Mike McCarthy's year off of coaching is that he built a barn in which to study the analytics, which is,
I wish you would have told me that before, I was like doing numbers for this team that year.
But and this begs the question: do we all have a barn? I have a barn. Do you guys? Where you go to study the numbers? I don't look at numbers anywhere else except for my barn.
My family actually does have a barn.
Okay.
Property my grandfather bought 60 years ago, Denny.
I am sorry to make fun of barns then. But is it an analytics barn is the question. Anyway.
No, you would choke to death on dust in there. In fact, we just had to tear it down. We're building a new one though.
You've been crying for 3 weeks about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Devin Singletary, early down guy, he's gonna eat into Damien Pierce's early down workload.
Man, wow, that's pretty bleak. Do you have anything less bleak, Kyle? I'm kind of tempted to just not really worry about it too much because of how good Damien Pierce was as a rookie. But that is kind of like famous last words with these situations. And Devin Singletary does seem like someone who's primed to be more loved by an NFL coaching staff than fantasy drafters.
He's fine. He's like a middle of the road runner who doesn't do a ton of other things well. Like Denny said, I think Damien Pierce is a little better by some metrics last year. He was a lot better in previous years. Harris was actually really good in the years before last year. He was banged up and didn't play his best football, whereas Singletary was kind of on the upward swing. It was maybe his best year. I like the fact he's not going to get a lot of money and that they have a highly drafted, really successful as a rookie running back ahead of him, far more successful and just more workload than James Cook, leads me to believe that his split of the backfield, it's not a similar situation what we're going to get in Buffalo. His split of the backfield should be much stronger. He was one of the best tackle breakers in the NFL last year. Not the stickiest stat, but I think it will earn him more opportunities at least. And, he could be a true tackle breaker. He might be, in fact. So I'm not incredibly concerned, especially because our baseline was absolutely that they were going to add someone. And it wasn't just going to be
That's true.
They added Mike Boone a few weeks ago or whatever. It was going to be someone more significant than that. So with that coming into this, that we're not getting 25 carries, but could we get 16, 17 plus a few catches? I still think that is certainly on the table just because Singletary doesn't catch passes well, at least doesn't run routes well, at least. And he's a fine, but not going to force the issue type of player as a runner. It's less than ideal, but honestly, is it? As long as we were expecting them to add someone, this is almost as good as it could get. There are worse backs they could have added, but the worry was going to be they go out and add a day 2 back. And this is far better than that for Damien Pierce.
Yeah, I think that is the takeaway of the situation. We knew they were going to add a back just because, first off, it's what the Texans do. It's a position they're always signing guys at. And Devin Singletary is not the worst possible outcome. So.
No, it's not. Also, I do want to say about Damien Pierce, it's not that I'm down on him as a player.
No, you're down on him as a person.
Right. It's a personal thing, a vendetta that I have. No, it's hard to tell how good Damien Pierce can be in a functional offense because of how bad the Texans were last year. Pro Football Focus graded Houston's offensive line is the 3rd worst run blocking unit in the league last year. Also, there's a little thing called where is it? Called hit at the line rate. Okay, so Damien Pierce was had the second highest hit at the line rates last year. 47% of his carries, he was hit at the line. The only guy with a higher rate was Nick Chubb. So, maybe with some daylight, Dameon Pierce can do some more things and prove that he should be getting the bulk of the touches in that Houston backfield.
And just, I guess, one more thing too. I mean, D'Amico Ryans, Bobby Slowick both come from the Shanahan coaching tree, and known to use multiple backs, that coaching tree. And so, they actually used to be known for guys who would rush for 2,000 yards,
and get 38 touches a game.
And Alfred Morris 1,600 yards as a rookie, but we
digress. Devin Singletary becomes a good, if not great, 0 RB target.
Yeah, yikes! I knew that was coming. Denny will have Devin Singletary on every team.
100%.
And the bank account will say $0. No, he is going to be a perfect 0 RB guy. There's actually no debating that. So the Texans going out, adding some guys to 1-year deals who did not get signed in week 1. Far more surprising than Devin Singletary not getting signed in week 1 of free agency was Dalton Schultz. Do find it fairly odd that no one would give this guy any guaranteed money in 2024. He's now a Houston Texan. He could be quite a factor for the Houston Texans, who are very, very low in returning pass catchers, especially after trading Brandon Cooks. Kyle, what do we think about Dalton Schultz, the Houston Texans? And still, I mean, Dalton's kind of a divisive player, but he's a proven pass catcher. I don't understand how he was limited to 1-year offers.
Yeah, I think it's just because he's not like tight end position where a lot of guys can probably do a lot of things at replacement level. You can platoon your players, and he's not like an elite pass catcher, but he's not like a mauling blocker. So there's not a ton of market because he's not a specialty player. You could just play multiple players at tight end and get somewhat similar production. I think he's solid though. And his deal, it's like 1 year, 9-something mil, reminds me a lot of Evan Ingram's contract, just because it's like this short-term prove it deal. And they could probably bring him. I mean, they'll have the money to bring him back next year if they want to. And if he produces well, and he's a fine pass catcher. He's far from elite, but 2 years ago, he was 12th in yards per route run, 7th in PFF receiving grade. Last year, those fell to 15th and 20th, but that's still above average to average starting level play. And he was dealing with Cooper Rush for at least a few games, right? So I think he's fine. And he's on a team that really needs guys to throw to, and they'll be better at throwing the football than they were last year. So I think he settles in at that, like, not a lot of ceiling tight end 1 range, which I'd tend to avoid. But if he falls in a draft to like the higher end of tight end 2, which I'm sure he will, I think like his ADP is right now at tight end 11. He's fine.
We have a full on PPR scam going on here, guys.
We do.
Yeah, we could.
We've been running this one for you. This is like one of those really big ones, like the Wall Street Journal has an article like, they were taking this money for years and no one in the accounting department of GE noticed this.
Right.
We don't know how they didn't, but they didn't.
Dalton Schultz has been a PPR scam since the 70s, and no one has reported on this. What you need is, if you're not going to be an elite tight end like Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, you need massive route volume and you need target volume, even if it's short targets, even if it's like little tiny A-dot targets. Dalton Schultz can get that in this offense. From a PPR perspective, I think he could be kind of a fun, 5-6 catch guy, maybe falls into some touchdowns. Not a lot of target competition. I don't hate it. I don't hate the addition here.
I don't hate it either. And I think his market was probably limited just because he's just viewed as like a pure pass catcher. And we know that these guys just want tight ends to love blocking more than life itself. But the target, a guy who's been a target commander in a far better offense, I think can be a target commander in this Houston Texans offense. So.
Exactly.
And speaking of like catch first tight ends who like lost the respect of their coaching staffs because they don't like to block, Mike Gesicki had a horrible year under the franchise tag. I still have no idea why the Dolphins franchise tagged Mike.
I think the tag is relatively cheap for like tight ends who are basically playing receiver.
It is, but it was an enormous blunder because they did not even.
They knew so quickly too. They knew in the middle of the summer that it wasn't going to work out. That was really what it was. It's not that like for his past production, it was a kind of a dumb tag. It's that they were able to tell right away that it wasn't a fit with him, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it was insane. So now he's gone to the Patriots, who I'm assuming really like their tight ends to block, but they also want anyone to catch passes. Denny Carter, still a super crowded skill core. I mean, Nelson Aguilar is now gone in free agency, but like Jonas Smith is gone. But it's just like,
Yeah.
where does Mike Gesicki fit into this Patriots offense?
Look, I would hope that Mike Gesicki and his agent talked with the Patriots about how he would like to be utilized on the football field before this signing, because if it's going to be anything like Jonnu Smith, because I think the dot connecting goes like this: you lose Jonnu, you bring in Gesicki. These two cannot play the same position. The Dolphins tried that. They tried to say, hey, Mike Gesicki, you see yourself as a big slot receiver. He has said this. He's been very open about this. I am a big slot receiver. He said those words. We're going to need you to be George Kittle in the 2022 season. And by that, I mean a massive, as Kyle said a minute ago, a mauling blocker. I like that.
Kyle says a large.
And
he's so large.
Yeah,
and you know, Mike Gesicki said, no, I ain't reading all that. And I'm not
he was not reading all that.
He was not going to read all that, and I respect it. If we could get him back to like a slot rate of like 70 to 75%, which is what he was in 2020 when he had a pretty nice year, top 10 in yards per route run.
He wasn't going to read it. He wasn't going to do it.
No, he was elite in yards per catch among tight ends. So if we can get back to that, I think that he could be interesting in the New England offense. If on the other hand, they're going to say, hey, put your hand on the dirt, Mike, and block that linebacker, then it's the fantasy value is completely gone.
I think the Pats are just still in this weird situation too, where they just have too many bodies, and like where they have so many people that they can't ever find defined roles for anyone. Like the past 2 years, it's like no one ever seemed like had a defined role beyond like Jacoby Myers. And like, I almost feel like they need to whittle it down just so people know their roles. The coaching staff knows their roles, like how this player's going to be used in the game plan. It just seems so sprawling and confusing and with like very average talent. Like, this is such a strange offense.
Yeah, I honestly don't get this signing. Like, he's nothing like Jonnu Smith. They literally couldn't be more opposites. Jonnu Smith is like halfway to being an H-back.
He basically is an H-back, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a good H-back too. He has one carry, like an 80-yard carry with the Titans. It still haunts me to this day. It's such a cool carry. And that's why he's so good for the Falcons. And he kind of made sense for the Pats, though. They didn't really seem to want to give him carries or whatever. But he played like almost exclusively in line, barely in the slot. So it's not like he's coming in as that replacement. But Hunter Henry also plays a decent amount in the slot. I think about half of his snaps with the Patriots have come from the slot. So are they just going to sub him in as a slot receiver only on passing downs? And then are they just leaving Hunter Henry to block? Hunter Henry's not like a great blocker, though. So like, it's kind of like you said, Pat, like they've got a lot of guys and I'm not really sure they know what they're doing with them. They're just like, he's a name I recognize. We play him twice a year. Get him on the roster.
I really do think that's basically what it is. And Bill is down just so remarkably bad.
It is funny though. There's so many signings, and I wish I could have a list. This is another thing I should do. I should prepare for the show. A list of signings where it was very clear that a team just saw this guy play last year and said, "Dang, that guy's good. We should get him."
Someone was pointing that out. I think maybe it was the Raiders. There was someone that was clearly that was the strategy they were pursuing. And
they have like, you know, this franchise worth billions of dollars. They invest millions of dollars in evaluation of players. They hire, you know, armies of people to study every aspect of a player's life. And it really just boils down to that guy kicked our butt last year. We should probably
Devin Singletary almost certainly had 136 yards from scrimmage at some point against the Texans.
You don't even have to look.
You don't have to look. You do not have to look. So yeah, the only thing better than having a big game against you is, of course, playing for you with another franchise. That is really the holy grail, actually. Yeah. Is did you play for me when I worked for another franchise that has since fired me, of course. Which is the only reason why I'm here now.
It's just really, really quite something that's what it boils down to. I know Kyle's looking it up, aren't you, Kyle?
It's quite something, by the way. The Dallas Cowboys finally released Ezekiel Elliott. Kyle will get to us with that stat in a minute. Adam Schefter reporting he has narrowed his options to the Eagles, Jets, and Bengals, and I'm so tired. so tired of talking about Zeke. But I mean, does he move the needle? I mean, he would be a rim finisher for the Eagles or Bengals. He would be a rim finisher, where he would probably stay fantasy relevant. I guess maybe even with the Jets. Like is Zeke. Any path to relevance 2023 question mark? Why are you trying?
No, man, he's really quite bad. Like I don't think that you get like a rejuvenation at this point in your career if you're Ezekiel Elliott. So no, the answer is no. I refuse. Even if he goes to the Eagles, best offensive line in the league, all this stuff. It doesn't. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't.
Cowboys had a pretty good offensive line several of the years where he's been bad.
Yeah, it doesn't fix what's wrong here with Ezekiel Elliott, which is that he had enormous usage over a matter of 4 or 5 years. That take the tread off. Okay, take the tread off the old tires. That's what he's facing there. Now, am I saying that?
Oh no.
Wait. If he signs with Philadelphia, am I saying that he's not going to run for 100 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys?
Oh yeah.
In their first meeting, I am not saying that will happen. I just want to be on the record. 100 yards, 4 touchdowns.
So better on best ball. Left behind in Dallas, by the way. Tony Pollard signed his franchise tag on Thursday. They haven't done much of a post Zeke plan yet. They signed Ronald Jones, but like Rojo's the kind of guy at this point where like he might not even make the 53-man roster.
No, he probably won't.
Nothing to Kyle. No Rojo thoughts, right?
No, still working and done working on Devin Singletary playing the Texans twice in his career. Once 14 for 79, a pretty healthy 5.6 yards per carry, and once in the playoffs. Houston made the playoffs in 2019. Who would have guessed? 13 for 58, but a 6 for 76 receiving line. So I'd say, he didn't kill them, but 2 good games against. And the time they played him in the regular season, they beat them 40-0.
Yeah. So there you go. That's one of the reasons he's there.
Yes. Thank you, Kyle, for uncovering
Crack the case.
He's their large adult son.
Again, I want to emphasize how important it is to not do any preparation before the show, to do it during the show.
The Raiders didn't do any preparation for free agency. It's why they signed Austin Hooper, but I don't even want to talk about that. I mean,
what a depressing signing.
There's nothing really to say there, right?
Well, no, it doesn't even matter it doesn't matter. They could lose Devontae Adams some way, and still Austin Hooper wouldn't
matter. Man, the Cleveland Browns making him the highest paid tight end in football. It seemed like maybe that didn't work out. And
I have to say, there were people defending that contract. Well, Austin Hooper's a solid football man. Come on. That was out of nowhere. That contract. I have no idea what the plan was for Austin Hooper in Cleveland.
Didn't have one. So we do now have a plan to end the show. So we're gonna end it. I'm sorry if there's some other topics you guys wanted to go to. I see maybe sadness in your eyes, but
no, that's just normal.
We're going to talk about JSN, as he's known, rigging his 40 time at some point. Kyle insists to me is actually fast. I said it was slow.
Dude, this is a whole new other pod topic. Here we go. We're at the end of the show. I've got rookie content coming out. I have my Dynasty tight ends, top 10 ranked. So we will have a long runway to talk about Dynasty players. And my JSN spiel is much more than the time we have allotted left. So a little teaser for next week.
Yeah, check it out. Kyle has been pumping out a lot of amazing stuff. Denny, you got an article out on underrated running backs this week. I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
You should read it before the season starts.
I will. Yeah. I will. I promise. I will read it before our Monday show. I bet we will probably talk about it.
Yeah.
I have free agency recap still on the site. There's been some new signings since then, but still holding up pretty well. Working on my annual coach rankings. Hope to have those out before 2024. So we have that to look forward to. And we have more podcasts next week to look forward to. So for Kyle Dvorchak, for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. We hope you had a good time. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.